What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G and the BLU Bold N2. Now, as always, if you end up wanting to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But without further ado, let's get into it. So with the A54 5G, we're getting a 6.4-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display with a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 403, and a 19.5:9 aspect ratio. With the BLU Bold N2, we're getting a 6.6-inch AMOLED display with a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 390, and a 19.5:9 aspect ratio as well. So in general, these displays are pretty much the same in almost every way. The only real difference between the two is that, again, with the BLU Bold N2 at 6.6 inches versus 6.4 with the A54 5G, the BLU Bold N2 is a tiny bit larger, but honestly, you can't really tell too much. And in general, if you are looking for a mid-range phone that has a really nice display, either phone will be a great choice. For storage, with the A54 5G, we're getting 128GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion, and with the BLU Bold N2, we're getting 256GB, but unfortunately, this phone does not have microSD card expansion. Now, on one hand, either way, you will get plenty of storage regardless, even with the A54 5G at 128GB. For the average user, this will be plenty of storage, and again, this phone does have microSD card expansion too, and that definitely does help. In addition to this, while it's not quite as common, the A54 5G does have another variant that has 256. So if you really want more storage with this phone, you can get it. And with the BLU Bold N2, on one hand, 256GB is a lot of storage, and most people probably won't even come close to filling this up. But on the other hand, for a non-flagship phone, not having microSD card expansion is pretty disappointing. I feel like aside from this phone, pretty much every other phone like this does have microSD card expansion. So of course, if that is important to you, definitely keep this in mind. But honestly, either way, if you are looking for a more affordable 5G phone that has plenty of storage, either phone will get the job done just fine. For security features, both phones have Face Unlock, and they both have real nice in-display fingerprint scanners. But starting with the A54 5G, let's give them a try. There we go, one more time. And there we go. And now for the BLU Bold N2. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So as you can see there, both fingerprint scanners were real fast and responsive, no issues at all. And again, remember, both phones have Face Unlock too, so if you want to use that instead, you always can. Now taking a look at the camera setups here, with the A54 5G, up front, we got a 32 megapixel selfie camera. Then on the back, we got a triple camera setup, with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. And then for video, this phone can record 4K videos in both the rear and front cameras, so definitely great to see there. And then with the BLU Bold N2, up front, we got a 16 megapixel selfie camera. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 64 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. And then for video, this phone can record 2K videos in the rear camera and 1080p in the front. So in general, both phones have pretty good camera setups, and when it comes to features, they are pretty much the same. Both have an ultra-wide camera and a macro camera, and despite not having a dedicated depth sensing camera, with the A54 5G, portrait mode still works perfectly fine. That being said though, when it comes to video, there is a difference, because unfortunately with the BLU Bold N2, despite at least being able to record 2K videos in the rear camera, unfortunately this phone can't record 4K at all, whereas again with the A54 5G, this phone can record 4K videos in both the rear and front cameras. And then to give you an idea of what the photo quality is like, first, here's some pictures taken with the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G. So in general, definitely great photo quality here. And for the average user, no matter what you're taking photos for, whether you're doing stuff like maybe Instagram, or maybe you're just sending photos to friends and family, or taking something like vacation photos for your own memories, regardless, the A54 5G will get the job done. And again, remember, this phone can record 4K videos too. So if you're maybe like a content creator and you want to record in that higher resolution, then definitely keep this in mind. And then here's some pictures taken with the BLU Bold N2, and when it comes to which one is better between the two, I'll let you decide that for yourself. But overall, for more casual use, I do think this phone will be perfectly fine too. I kind of prefer the A54 5G, but honestly, with the BLU Bold N2, still for average use like Instagram photos and stuff like that, it will get the job done just fine. Now for the RAM and processor, with the A54 5G, we're getting 6GB of RAM with the Exynos 1380 processor. With the Blue Bolt N2, we're getting 8GB of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 810. Now between the two, on one hand, the Blue Bolt N2 for what it is definitely not a slow phone, but on the other hand, the A54 5G is quite a bit faster. So if you're going to be on your phone a bit more, maybe doing more demanding activities like some moderate mobile gaming for example, the A54 5G will have an advantage. But for more basic activities, if you're not really going to be on your phone all day or anything, and you're just doing casual stuff like web browsing, social media, streaming content like videos and music and stuff like that, for that kind of use, the Blue Bolt N2 will be just fine. Now I ran a benchmark test on each phone using Geekbench 6, and here are the results I got. So again, as you can see between the two, the A54 5G did score quite a bit higher. So again, if you want the faster phone here, if performance is more important to you, I would definitely go with the A54 5G. But again, in my experience, despite not being quite as fast, the Blue Bolt N2 is still decently good enough, so for more basic daily activities, it will at least get the job done. And also, in case you didn't realize, the Blue Bolt N2 is also a 5G phone too. So if you are just looking for 5G connectivity, either phone here will be perfectly fine. For the batteries, with the A54 5G, we're getting a 5000 mAh battery that supports 25 watt fast charging, and with the Blue Bolt N2, we're getting a 4200 mAh battery that supports 30 watt fast charging. So on one hand, the Blue Bolt N2 has a really small advantage when it comes to charging speed, but on the other hand, with the A54 5G, with again a 5000 mAh battery versus 4200, the Samsung's battery life is going to be quite a bit better. So if that's more of a priority for you, maybe you're in a situation where you're not always around a charger, but you still have to use your phone all day, then in that case, the A54 5G will be a much better choice. But also keep in mind, the Blue Bolt N2's battery life is not terrible, and as long as you're not using your phone all day doing more demanding activities, or maybe you're around a charger for a decent amount of time, which I feel like most people usually are, in that kind of situation, the Blue Bolt N2, while definitely not having the best battery, is still at least acceptable. Now for the software, the A54 5G has a huge advantage, because first of all, this phone does have Android 13, whereas with the Blue Bolt N2, unfortunately, this phone only has Android 11. And in addition to this, with the A54 5G, keep in mind Samsung has really good software support. So with this phone, you can also expect to get Android 14, 15, 16, and 17. Whereas with the Blue Bolt N2, I'm assuming since it's been out for over a year now, it's probably not even going to get Android 12, let alone Android 13 and beyond. So if the software is important to you, the A54 5G will be a much better choice. In addition to this, when it comes to other features, unfortunately neither phone here has a headphone jack, so if you have a normal pair of 3.5mm headphones, to use them, you will need an adapter. Also keep in mind the A54 5G does have NFC, whereas unfortunately the Blue Bolt N2 doesn't. So if you like to use tap and pay, then between the two, you will want to go with the A54 5G. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? Now, despite the Blue Bolt N2 being a kind of unique, pretty decent device for what it is, in pretty much every meaningful way, the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G is the better device here. Now, the displays are pretty much equal. I feel like regardless of which one you get, despite the Blue Bolt N2, I guess, technically being a bit larger at 6.6 inches versus 6.4, you're pretty much going to have the same experience. And again, the Blue Bolt N2 with 256GB of internal storage does have an advantage there, but don't forget, the A54 5G does have a variant that has the same amount, and it also has microSD card expansion, so I feel like that kind of evens out. But aside from this, the A54 5G has a much better camera that can record 4K videos. It also has significantly faster performance, a better battery, better software support, and NFC, whereas again, unfortunately, the Blue Bolt N2 does not have NFC. So in general, if you really do want to maximize the value you're getting for the money, the A54 5G is hands down the better choice here. But if you're really just looking for something cheap and kind of basic that gets the job done, the Blue Bolt N2 is still really not a bad choice. I mean, if you don't really care that much about the software, everything else about this phone is at least acceptable, and since it's been out for over a year now, I'm sure you can find some good deals for it. But this concludes my comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G and the Blue Bolt N2. Again, if you want to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipis Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.